So here is my full review of the all-new and very interesting LG Wing. Let's get into it. Now, 2020 has been a very interesting year, and for the smartphone industry, it's actually been great. It's been good for people like myself who like it when manufacturers go out of their way to make things that do come out of the ordinary. If you look at things like the Galaxy Z Fold 2 that I have here, the Z Flip, the new Razr, and of course the LG Wing that I have here, among many other very interesting looking phones, you'll be able to see that 2020 was actually quite a year for smartphones. And with all that being said, major shout out to LG for sending the LG Wing over to the studio so that I can review and share with you all my genuine take on this phone. And this is my way of telling you that this is not a sponsored video, right? They simply sent me the phone for me to review and share my opinion with you all. All right, so let's talk about design. This thing right here is different. It is a very different and interesting form factor on a modern smartphone. It swivels open, not necessarily to give way to like a keyboard like my good old special edition Dwayne Wade Sidekick 3 from back in the days, but instead it gives way to a second screen. This view here exposes the full experience of the LG Wing, which of course means that you can close it and get the typical or the quote-unquote regular phone form factor when you have it closed, right? The top display here is pretty tall. It stands at 6.8 inches with that second one standing at 3.9. As I did mention in my unboxing video, it has some hefty weight to it and it's pretty thick, which makes sense, right? This is one phone and a half if you think about it. The one on the back here is about the size of a regular phone, and that screen sitting on top will be about half as thin as another phone. On the back here, we have a triple lens camera module, and finally on the front here, we have a selfie camera, which is a motorized pop-up camera. All right, so back to the phone now. Some of you may be wondering whether the specs and performance of the phone are as flashy or as cool as the look of it. So let's go ahead and talk about it. And before we do so, if this is your first time visiting the channel, welcome, of course. If you do like the content so far, well, I very much appreciate that. Please do me a huge favor and hit both the like and the subscribe button there. It's a tremendous help to this channel. And that's one of the ways, the main ways to really support this channel. Again, I truly appreciate that. Now let's go ahead and talk specs and performance on the LG Wing. And I want to start up with the chipset. It is loaded with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 765G. And you have to keep in mind that that is a mid-range chipset, but still kind of a higher grade of that mid-range category, but it does perform pretty well. This unit has 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of internal storage, which is clearly already plenty, and it still does offer the option to expand that internal storage at up to 2 terabytes, which is a lot. I was really happy to find that out. It's also loaded with Android 10, and you have the LG UI sitting on top of that. Now, user experience is actually pretty good. Now, I'm not going to say it's the best. It takes some getting used to. Some people don't necessarily like it. I personally don't mind it, even though I'm used to like a Samsung user interface. The LG UI is not bad at all. Now, there is a tiny learning curve simply because of the form factor of the phone itself, right? You're dealing with that LG UI on 2 separate screens. And talking to screens, I actually like multitasking on this phone, especially in this day and age, because we're always dealing with a bunch of things at the same time. Just like it was advertised, or as you may have heard some people say, is actually very good at multitasking. You have your main stuff at the top and have something that is secondary at the bottom, or vice versa. You can play around with it and see how you like the setup of these screens. And just like you'll be able to do on like a Galaxy Note or something like that, as far as multitasking goes, of course, you can pair up apps the way you like them so that when you launch, you could just go directly to the pair that you like and just pull that up. Now, if you don't want to use the secondary screen at all, you could just turn that off and use it as a handle, like a gimbal. And besides using it as a secondary screen, you can also use it as your controller for whatever you may be doing on the main screen and just navigate that stuff from over here. Both are OLED displays and are full HD, and that 6.8 inch has a resolution of 1080p by 2460, while the secondary screen stands at 1080p by 1240. Picture quality is awesome here, and images are pretty sharp. Entertainment looks very nice on here as well, and like I said, it's an OLED display, so it looks really good. It does handle gaming very well. So once you get access to the library of games, you can actually play all of them. Now, I want to highlight a few additional features here, starting off with the fingerprint sensor. It's actually an in-display fingerprint sensor. It's not the fastest fingerprint sensor out there, but it does the job. It does work relatively fast, and it comes in actually super handy, especially in these mask wearing times, right? Another thing I want to highlight is the fact that this phone actually supports a stylus, or in other words, it has pencil support, which many people actually are not aware of. I do have a capacitive pencil that you see here, and I'm able to activate that stylus mode and use it to take notes or do drawing and so forth. It actually works pretty well. It does have 5G connectivity here, so you are pretty much set for future technology, right? So as we move towards 5G, if you were to pick up this phone, you wouldn't even need to worry about that. It's compatible. You also have wireless charging here, of course, and the battery does support fast charge. It's supposed to be rated IP54 splash proof, and if you think about it, it does make sense, right? So this phone has quite a few moving parts, a little bit like the Galaxy Z Fold 2 does, right? So if you think about just even that selfie camera that pops up here, you know that if you drop this thing in water, yeah, it's definitely going to go in, or even if it's open. I don't know how protected it is when it's open this way, but I would assume not that much. But bottom line is this: don't drop it in water if you have this phone. Now, the camera on here is actually something special, right? So especially when you put it in this mode here, when you have it in the wing mode and you hit camera, it would automatically go into gimbal mode, which is super cool. Now, I'm not sure how many of you out there are familiar with gimbals, but if that's something that you are into, this guy right here would actually do the trick. You get access to all of these buttons to move the camera right, left, or up and down, or even lock onto subjects and so forth without even moving the phone. Now, with all of that being said, when you take pictures using that gimbal mode, the quality is not as good as it would be if you were using just that main camera using the regular phone mode. So regular mode does provide excellent picture quality. You have a 64 megapixel wide, a 13 megapixel ultra wide, and another 12 megapixel ultra wide, this time with hexamotion sensors, which is the one that mainly kicks into gimbal mode. So overall, I like the camera on here. It's also loaded with a 4,000 milliamp hour battery, which you might think, that's actually pretty big. But if you think about it, I mean, it is a large battery, but you are dealing with a pretty big phone with 2 screens, right? So battery, it hasn't been fantastic. It hasn't been terrible either. But and I've been using both screens a lot. So every time I'm trying to use it, I always open it and just use both screens. On days when I only use the main screen, you would actually get pretty good battery life. So I say that for battery, it really depends on how you use it, right? So this is truly subjective. If you stick to that main screen, again, it's a little bit like the Galaxy Z Fold 2. When you use the main screen, great battery life. But once you start using, the large screen on the Z Fold 2, the battery start going down. Same deal here. Once you start using both screens, the battery is going to go down quicker. Now, with all of this being said, the LG Wing is something very special. I think this is another one thing that just kind of keeps me interested in tech, and it keeps me excited to just see things that are different. Because we're so used to just seeing the same old thing, just being recycled over and over again. I like when companies take chances like this one, right? I really like this one, just like the Galaxy Z Fold. So far, these are my 2 favorite phones from 2020. I really enjoy this form factor. I like things that are different, and this is different, and I still think it's a very cool phone. I would definitely recommend this to someone who loves tech. I wouldn't recommend it to a regular person who's just looking for a phone, because this thing costs $1,000. So yeah. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this was informative, and that if you are in the market for this phone, I hope that it helps your purchasing decision. Don't forget, of course, to like, comment, and subscribe. And of course, if you have any questions, make sure to put those in the comment section. I will catch you there. We could have that little back and forth, that discussion about the amazing LG Wing going. Up until the next video, stay safe out there.